Hello, I'm Marley Lovell. I'm here with Mr. Don Van Cleave, who is the president of the Coalition of Independent Music Stores.
Hello, how are you today?
Thank you very much for coming here today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we start off with having you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about the Coalition of Independent Music.
I went to Georgia Tech.
Okay.
And did the whole engineering thing for a while.
Sound engineering?
No, industrial engineering.
Okay.
I helped build skyscrapers in Dallas.
Right on.
Hated it. Didn't want to do it anymore and really loved music and wanted to be in the music business. So I packed my wife and one-year-old daughter up and we moved to Birmingham, Alabama and opened a record store called Magic Platter,
All right.
which we really focused on compact discs. This was right when CDs were starting to blow up, and we opened a store with nothing but CDs, no vinyl, no cassettes, and we had opened it with this selection that no one in that town had seen, and we were instantly a hit. And we owned that record store for 14 years and won Best Store in America twice.
All right.
From NARM, our industry, what do you call that? Thank you, a trade association. We closed it when it became obvious that the coalition job was growing and growing and growing much bigger and much more important. So I had to give up something in my life, and we chose to close the record store, and which was very painful. Right after September 11th, we closed.
Was there anybody looking to buy the record store? Or?
No, I didn't want to sell it because I didn't want somebody running it into the ground because my name was forever associated with Magic Platter. So we announced we were closing, and 18 days later, we sold the last of the office supplies and sold every fixture, every poster. We sold it all off, and that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago now.
All right. So what have you been doing since?
I run the Coalition of Independent Music Stores, which we started in 1995 as a kind of a trade association also, but mainly it was a lot of us around the country kind of getting together and going, we're not getting treated fair by the man. And the man would not listen to individual stores, but would listen to a collective of stores. So to get on the same page as Best Buy and Target and Walmart and Coconuts and all the different large retailers, we had to kind of come together as a united force so we could walk into the record labels and go, this is what we want for this record. This is how we're going to support this record. This is the kind of financial support you need to give us if you want A, B, or C to happen. And it was kind of a chain with no name concept.
Okay, and so I mean, by being on the same page as those major distributors, does that mean that you're not necessarily paying the same price? They're paying a lower price.
No,
everybody's paying the same price.
It's always about the marketing dollars.
Right.
It's not about the price. You know, supposedly the law is we have to all pay the same price.
Right.
It's how much marketing money can they give you to kind of offset the price you're paying.
I got you.
So we formed a lot of programs and all across our record stores. Listening booth programs, genre-specific programs. We sell about 10 different programs now. Everything from indie hip-hop to old catalog programs to a full-on program recommends that we only run one or two releases a month through that includes a lot of in-store play and a lot of posters up on the wall. And these are all things selected by our record store owners. It's not selected by the record labels.
So the record store owner decides what records they want to...
Well, to explain, my office acts as a gatekeeper.
Okay.
We bring in the opportunities. We talk to every label guy out there, and we find out the release schedule and what's coming when. And then we go to them and say, you want to do something with us, or they approach us a lot of times and says, we want to do something with you. And we create a ballot.
Gotcha.
And then we vote it. We get all the store owners to vote. And after 12 years, we figured out that we had turned down 70% of the money we'd been offered because they didn't want to do something with this act or that act. It just didn't fit their stores. So we have this process where the coalition office basically brings opportunities, and then the stores decide by majority rule what they want to mess with.
Right. Well, I mean, with that type of kind of checks and balances, I bet you end up with some very successful.
Well, and a lot of integrity because
right, yeah.
you know, it's very tough. Our coalition would never have survived if I had been a dictator and told all these record stores you have to work with my taste in music.
Right,
You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
these guys need to look at the ballot and go, this fits my customer profile. This definitely does not fit my customer profile. And you know, we have to go back to the labels and a lot of times tell them no, which is very disappointing because you know they've gotten us on their marketing plans.
Right. Well, so I mean, with that and kind of with the, I mean, I know that every major music fan out there they always have one store that they go to, and it's often, you know, it's often not Best Buy, it's often independent music. I was wondering what percentage of music is sold at these independent stores nationwide.
Well, if you're talking about what percent of all music,
what percentage of retail music?
Well, up to 15% of the overall pie. But on specific acts, it could be 80% because Best Buy doesn't care about them or Target doesn't care about them. You know, they're just not big enough. So some bands, it's 100% of their music sold at indie retail.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
So really, you look at the percentage, and if you're going to put me out there with, Christina Aguilera or something, we're probably nothing.
Yeah. Right.
We're probably 0%.
Right.
But if you're going to put me out there with, you know, a lot of indie records and a lot of underground music and a lot of dance music and a lot of, you know, indie hip hop music, we're a giant percent of that stuff.
Right.
And vinyl, we're almost 80%.
Huh. Vinyl in terms of vinyl new releases.
Vinyl new releases.
Yeah. Huh. Right on. Well, I mean, okay, so what's the future of selling music? Because you got out of the music, you don't actually sell music yourself anymore. Now you kind of support other people and help them sell it. And you know, being a student of the music industry, what we're learning is that, you know, we're in this big transitional period, you know, onto the internet, onto these other forms. I mean, what's the future of retail music?
Well, it just depends on how. It really depends on how it all goes. I mean, we firmly believe that there's a place in the world for, you know, people who like physical goods. There's still a lot of physical goods being sold.
Definitely.
I think over 500 million CDs this year will be sold. It's declining, and as it declines, the structure is falling apart. The labels are falling apart. The bigger retailers are having less and less floor space dedicated to music, which is kind of forcing a lot of people out to our stores because we haven't given up on physical goods. Vinyl is making a gigantic resurgence. That's a very positive thing, and we could sell all we can get. And there's a supply issue there because a lot of the factories have been closed down, and the presses are gone.
And so they're reopening them back up?
They're reopening, or other entrepreneurs are going out and buying up dusty old presses and getting them all up to snuff and making their own parts for them. And I went to a factory in Nashville the other day that makes 40,000 pieces of vinyl a day.
Is that what
United Records?
And you can go and get your own stuff pressed there, right?
Oh yeah,
right? Yeah. I actually worked in Nashville over the summer, so
yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, when I was there, they were working on a Jay-Z blue vinyl Jay-Z single for all the club guys.
Right, because the single's called Blue Magic.
Right, yeah, exactly. And so they were shipping that. I was there the day they were making that, and then they would also ship it all out to the clubs. But we're selling a lot of vinyl now. We're still selling a ton of CDs, and we're one of the things we're trying to get the industry to do in a big way is when you sell vinyl, either slip a CD in the packaging or slip a download code in the packaging so that person that has the most non-portable version of music can still get it on his iPod.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because it seems like, because vinyl is for the the music connoisseur, and it's more of like a collector's item. And people, in terms of physical goods, people like physical goods because they like to have their collection, they like to see the artwork and all that types of stuff. But there is still going to be a digital component.
There's still going to be a digital component for a lot of people's lives because even if they still buy CDs, it's generally as a backup item or as something, like I say, to they just have the collection,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
love the
absolutely.
collection. I know people that grew up in the business that had massive collections that don't have a single CD to their name anymore. They kept all their vinyl, they ripped all their CDs in, they sold them all. And the funny part is a lot of them ripped them in at too low a bit rate. Now they're going to have to go rebuy everything and rip them in at a bigger bit rate, which is funny. The snake kind of bit them. But, you know, it's an interesting time. And we think that, as evidenced by the Radiohead giveaway of their music earlier last month, there was still something missing. There was some kind of a fan experience there that was missing. Yeah, everybody got these files and they weren't the highest quality, and there was a lot of griping by a lot of people who didn't pay anything, which was kind of funny to me, very entitled. But there was this missing component. There was not a lyric book. These guys have always had over-the-top artwork, and you know,
and they want everybody to appreciate their album.
Yeah, so I think there was a retail experience lost there. We'll see how it all goes. You know, it's a very transitional time, and you know, we're positioning ourselves to be the last guys standing. You know, we're talking with one company now about the ability to make CDs on demand, so that you know we can. As labels go digital only, we can still have CDs made if customers want CDs. Because there are people, believe it or not, that will go to their grave and CD is their format. That's what they want. They don't want digital. They don't want to go there. They don't care. They like their CD collection.
My dad still listens to tapes.
Yeah, your dad listens to tapes. I bought a reel-to-reel player the other day. It's like I'll listen to a lot of vinyl. I've got 15,000 digital songs myself that I use from time to time. It just depends on what mood I'm in as to how I choose to consume my music.
Well, didn't Radiohead kind of try to address all those types of forms? Don't they? They had a limited edition vinyl thing.
It wasn't an immediate thing. You have to wait on it, and it's still not out. I mean, you know, that's going to get there. So as this tip jar model kind of morphs, and that's kind of what we call what Radiohead
tip jar
did.
Model, I like that.
Tip jar, kind of a tip jar model. We'll see others try it really soon, and I know that you know, there's going to be variations on what Radiohead did to try to figure out a way to monetize it a little differently. But what's happened there, just to explain, Radiohead was able to record their own record. They pay for it themselves. It's their studio, so their security is locked down. No one had those files. It can't leak in that situation. Where you get your leak is when you take it and you give it to manufacturing, and you start to give it to label guys, and a few journalists start getting it, and you know, you're at a public studio, and so everybody's flipped out about their record getting out there early, not only because they don't want it out early, they want it out when they want it out, but because a lot of money gets lost. I mean, you know, then once it gets on the P2P services, it's over for a lot of people. So Radiohead dropped the bomb that, hey, we've got it ready, you know, we're going to sell it or give it to you today.
Well, they also have the luxury of having complete control over it. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of people don't have that luxury. A lot of people also don't have the luxury of having that initial millions and millions of dollars that everybody already knows who you are.
It will not work for you know, every band in New Orleans. It will not. It just will not work for them. But the interesting thing is the superstar and how they, once they get out of their record deal and they've got some say-so, how they are going to control the flow themselves. So what Radiohead did, instead of letting the plant leak it and it get on all the file sharing services for free, they leaked it and gave you the option of paying for it. And from what I read, 36% of the people paid for it. So they monetized that leak period.
And I heard that their average price was like $250 or something like that.
$250, yeah, which is $5 in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's also across all of their downloads, including the people who paid for it. So it's like, would they have gotten $250 from the label?
You know, they would not. They would have gotten a recording budget, though. They would have gotten probably $500,000 to record the record. You know, they would have gotten some money. You know. But they definitely saw a check from it that they wouldn't have seen the other way. You're right. So it's going to be really interesting going forward to see how these letting it out there direct to fan, rolling it into retail stores with physical goods, how that's going to really affect 2008 record business. That's going to be the thing to watch, in my opinion, is as these guys get out of their deal. And believe me, every single major star is figuring out how to get that last record recorded and get out on their own so that they can work directly with their fans. What Radiohead found is, yeah, we can work directly with our fans, but they definitely have a gigantic retail element to what they do, because their fan base really does like to look at the art. The vinyl's going to be very elaborate. The CD is going to be very elaborately done, and all that comes out in January. And we're really interested to see if having the music out there for 3 months, how that's going to impact. I think with this band, it's going to sell just as good as it ever did, because you got to have it. You got to have it. I got to have it. I got to have the vinyl and the CD, and I will go buy both of them. And I think a lot of people will be that way. And plus, the files that they let out there were middle of the rain.
They gave some. They still have somewhere to go.
They got a lot of ways to go. I mean, the CD and the vinyl will sound a lot better than what they got out there. They got a lot of grief over what they got out there, because they didn't really. They should have disclosed that it was going to be 192K and not a 360 file or a 320 file. It's too small and it doesn't sound good. And people that I know that paid $10 for it are kind of ticked off that they paid that much money.
Right.
And I think Radiohead, if they had it to do over again, they would fully disclose how much, what the bit rate was. And, that was a big mistake they made. But other than that, I think it was a pretty big experiment, and we'll see. Come March, we'll see how it did.
Yeah.
Because that's how long it's going to take to really judge it.
Right. Well, speaking of experiments and physical goods, I wanted to see what your take was on USB releases. I know that
Bob Marley.
I know he blew up the spot.
Just blew it up, and that was an import. The U.S. company didn't put that out. And
you're talking about the Gold Exodus.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, I've only heard about it and seen it. And
we've
read
got
about
stores.
It.
I can get you one. I can get you one.
Okay.
They're behind the counter. That's the funny thing about it. The White Stripes put out these very collectible little dolls, look like little dunny dolls, kind of that were. Very collectible and very rare and hard to get, and they sold them for $100. and they've got.
But they're hard to get, though.
And they're hard to get, and people had to have them. But it had all the music on there.
Had the music in the doll.
In the doll. Well, USB. It was a USB stick.
Okay.
And we think USB sticks are a great way to sell music.
Yeah, because you can sell the artwork and sell.
The issue becomes like with the Matchbox 21 in the States, and then the Marley one outside the States is still a real expensive item. I don't know that flash memory's going down, but for some reason or another, they want us to try to sell USB sticks for $30, and I still think that's way too much money.
They don't take that to manufacture.
But but it's what's on it. There's not just the music files are on there.
It's the software.
There's all this, full photo archives, concert poster archives, lyric books, tour schedules. You can make this be an amazing fan experience and still have something collectible. They did kind of look like Pez dispensers, but
if that's the new form.
But it is a collectible item, and that's what I'm basically saying is digital files are good and fine and whatever, but they're not limited. They're you just can't hug them. You can't go to bed with them and look up and go, look at my little USB.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, what percentage of these independent stores do they have online distribution deals? How do they have an online presence as well?
All of them have a big online presence. They just don't sell digital music yet. The barrier to entry for selling digital music is astounding. I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm trying to open 45 digital stores in the first quarter, where we act as the central. You got to go get a license.
Okay.
And you got to get a license with 20 to 50 companies, and you got to pay a lawyer to do it. And each license costs you a bunch of money, because when you go to a distributor and you say, I want to license your digital catalog, they're like, great, let's do it. takes 3 months. It takes thousands of dollars in legal fees, and they hand you a 1 terabyte hard drive that you got to go hook into your server, and they want you to pay for that because it costs them money to do it. So there's ingestion fees.
So who are you paying? Are you working with a label? Or are you working? So you do it on a label to label basis, and you have
distributor to distributor.
Okay.
Sony distributes Columbia and Epic and all the red labels, and Warner has Warner Brothers and Atlantic, but they have all the ADA labels, and these are all, so they control the digital rights on hundreds of labels. Okay. So you go to that one guy, and you can get hundreds of labels at a time, but you got to deal with.
But you have to deal with that one guy.
You got to deal with their business affairs people, and then suck their content in, and they may want, you may suck in 300,000 songs, and they may want 50 cents a song for ingestion. I mean, you may pay hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get your digital catalog so you can start selling it.
Wow.
So we're working very closely with a lot of really forward-thinking web guys now that are helping us have digital stores, and we should have those up and running. And we're very anti-DRM, so we're only going to sell high-quality MP3s. Just getting through the process. And do you know that Amazon is the only online store where you can put a CD and a download in your shopping basket at the same time? Like, you go to Amazon and you look.
Are you serious?
Yeah. You look at,
Well, I mean, DRM is the reason why I don't shop online for things. So, I wouldn't know that.
They don't sell DRM. They sell only MP3s.
Right.
But what we found limiting is we can all get a download store, but we have to also have a separate physical selling store online. Right. So if you want to buy a CD from me, you got to go to this store. If you want to buy a download from me, you got to go to that store, because the record labels have never made the SKUs match each other. It's crazy.
So okay, but when you're dealing with a label, and say you wanted to, you're opening how many digital stores you want to open?
45.
45, and so these are going to be genre specific. No.
These are going to be, each of my guys gets their own store.
Got it. Okay,
like Twist and Shout in Denver will have a digital store.
Okay.
Lou's in Encinitas, California, and Looney Tunes in Long Island. They'll all have a digital store that they can control and customize.
Right. And so then you can go and
I'll be the guy behind the scenes creating the pool of music that they're drawing from.
I got that.
And we're spending a lot of time getting exclusives and a lot of exclusive music for our record stores. We've put out over 200 releases in the past 3 years. That Ave and Art, all of them basically, where everything from Pearl Jam live at Easy Streets to Toots and the Maytals live at Music Millennium. We record a lot of our in-store performances and get those put out in in physical form now. So we're doing more and more and more of that. I've got a Ben Harper DVD CD coming out in about 2 weeks. It's really amazing. Paul McCartney live at Amoeba we're releasing next Tuesday.
All right.
So we're spending a lot of time getting things that are unique to us.
Well, so then if you're going to a distributor and you say you want content, but you're only looking for certain people. Say you're only looking for certain artists for your genre specific site. Would they try to unload a whole bunch of other stuff on you? Is there any way to? Because it sounds like it's all or nothing. It sounds like it's
you talking about on the digital goods?
In terms of trying to get content for a site, because
you feature what you want to feature.
If you have to pay 50 cents for all these songs that you're not even trying to sell.
Some people let you cherry pick, some don't. It just depends on the company. Different content companies are very different. And some labels, even on the very indie side, there's some aggregators of labels that you have to take everything because that's their deal with the labels, because they don't want you to be able to cherry pick, and I think cherry picking is a great way to go.
Yeah. Well,
that's what we do in our physical stores.
Right, and so you should be able to do it in a digital sense. There's so much content out there. The issue
you ought to be a lawyer if you believe all that.
Well, the issue is that there's so much content out there, and so it's hard to organize it. It's hard to kind of get to navigate all that content. And so that's what's good about a physical store is you can go through and, you know what I mean, you can
especially
pick and
a good
choose,
physical store that knows you and your taste. And,
right. Well, I mean, but can a good digital store do that exact same thing?
Go to other.
I know we haven't hit it yet, but I mean,
go to other music if you want to see a store that's probably the size of a dorm room in New York City that has one of the best online digital stores I've ever seen, and they've cherry-picked and they've done a great job of organizing that for their fans. And more of these are coming up, and they're the way we're going to do it is you put all this repository of music in there, and everything's available. It's how you choose to present it to the customer online. He can search and maybe pull up something that we've never even sold before, but really we're going to drive them to specific things through blogs and through what we normally do, which is act as a filter for those customers of that store. We're going to make recommendations, and you'll go directly to that product page and download it. You're not going to be doing a lot of searching and pecking. We're going to tell you what to buy, just like we do now, and that's kind of the strategy. Hope it works.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about content creation and content collecting, and Mr. John Van Cleave, you are an expert in trying to get exclusive content. What's the secret?
The secret is you got to beg a lot. Not really. You really, my strategy, and it's not what the record labels like to hear me say, but I tend to go to the artist and the manager first, and we decide what's best for the artist, and then we'll go to the label and propose the idea. After already reaching a deal. In the past, I've found that if you go to the label, they tend to be very protective and they will never ask the artist. Some aren't. Some are very good about bringing us opportunities. We just get them all day long now from various sources. But if we know someone's going to release a record and they're going to go on a big tour, we really try to get them to do an event that we can tape and an album release party at one of our stores or something along those lines. And generally that means the manager and I have to get together far in advance and try to work that out. Or if we're mid-cycle on a record like the new Interpol or the Decemberists that we're now way into their records, the Ben Harper at Twist and Shout. It's more of a strategy of trying to give that record a new lift, a new marketing angle. So we'll go in and go, if you'll let us release this, we'll make a big deal about it. We'll get it. We have a publicist. We'll do all these things. We'll pay for the recording. We'll do all these things to get your record back to the front of all of our stores. Because after you have your first sales punch and the single goes away and you got all these new releases coming in, those releases tend to get pushed kind of back into the bins. And a lot of what I do is bringing things out of the bins back to the forefront of the store, and they really like that.
Yeah. Well, to go back to what you were saying in terms of dealing with the artist and the manager, it seems like labels are really reluctant to try for you to release another physical good. You know what I mean? So it seems like a live performance in these type of events are kind of hard. However,
we've got them okay with it now. At first, it was very hard to do because, they didn't want to tick off Best Buy and people like that, which is fine, and that's totally understandable. But what happened was they started seeing all the marketing that our stores do. Right. You can't get an email from a single indie record store in America that doesn't have our banners on the top. And that made a big impact. All these managers started getting email marketing from cool record stores and going, how did this happen? What's that? Well, you got to do an exclusive with them, and they'll do that. So we promise to promote the label's current record, current priority, with this fan piece. They're really fan pieces. They're for that hardcore person that already bought the record and needs something else quickly. And it also brings new people in by just a lot of marketing. So it's gotten now where the labels are okay with another physical good in the marketplace. But you're right. Initially, they were very reluctant to that.
Well, it seems like you're trying to extend the life of the retail music game, and I know that I appreciate it. I know everybody appreciates it because I mean, even as someone who's looking at it, I'm excited about the the transition of music into the digital sense. We're all scared about it. You know what I mean? Because it's lower quality. I mean, why are we we're giving up quality just because for convenience? And it doesn't seem like it's worth it.
It is a convenience issue. I think vinyl sounds best, and it's the hardest to deal with. And digital files.
Cool, though. I mean,
digital files sound worse, but it can put it in your pocket. Put it in your pocket. So, vinyl does sound cool, right?
Vinyl does sound cool. So, well, I'm glad that that the hardcore fan is still out there, and that independent music stores can survive. I know that when I go home, I'm from the Bay Area. When I go home, I go straight to Rasputin. That's the first.
Yeah, well, they're obviously one of they're one of the accounts that buys a lot from us. They're not in my coalition. They're in another coalition.
Okay. I go to
and
Amoeba
then there's
as well.
a third coalition, and Amoeba won't join any coalition.
Oh,
but we're all very friendly with each other, very cooperative with each other. In the past, there was always this competition between indie stores in the same town. Now we understand that we're not the enemy.
Yeah,
we're not the enemy, guys. There's other enemies.
Absolutely.
So everybody's kind of locked arms and are working really closely together. And in the Bay Area, we have probably between Streetlight and Rasputin's and Mod Lang and Amoeba. And then on up into Sacramento, we probably have 20 stores that we work with that we visit regularly. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for talking with me today.
Nice to be here.
Nice to meet you, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.